The courthouse was packed by sunrise. Fans with signs lined the front steps. Reporters shouted over each other, cameras flashing non-stop, as the gates to Fulton County's most talked-about trial in years creaked open. Inside, security was tight, phones were locked. A list of banned attendees circulated among guards. This wasn't just a trial, it was a reckoning. At the heart of it all sat Scrappy, silent in a dark gray suit, his jaw clenched as whispers echoed around him. On the opposite side of the room, Bambi adjusted her blazer and stared straight ahead, refusing to acknowledge the man who, just months ago, shared her home, her family, and her storyline. The air was thick with tension, but it wasn't until Tasha K entered, heels clicking like a countdown clock, that everything truly shifted. Dressed in sharp black with a silver flash drive clipped to her necklace, Tasha K didn't look like a blogger. She looked like a storm. As the judge entered, and court was called to order, murmurs filled the room. The case, listed officially as Richardson v. Freeman, et.al., had ballooned into a full-scale investigation against not just Scrappy, but Urban Trend Studios, the rebranded production arm behind Street Ties, Atlanta, a thinly veiled stand-in for love and hip-hop. The charges, emotional coercion, digital manipulation, contract fraud, and intentional infliction of distressal, stemming from a coordinated campaign to weaponize reality television against Bambi for ratings. And today, Tasha K was their star witness. The prosecution rose. "We now call Ms. LaTasha Freeman to the stand." The room gasped, even Scrappy blinked. Tasha K stepped forward confidently, the flash drive still visible around her neck.
Chief
Was sworn in, then took her seat. The prosecutor wasted no time. "Ms. Freeman, you've been in contact with the defendant, Daryl Richardson, also known as Scrappy. For how long?" Tasha K smirked. "Since before the cameras ever rolled. And have you ever received footage, audio, or communication from him or from Urban Trend Studios that would pertain to this case?" She nodded slowly, unlocking her necklace and revealing the drive. "It's all here. Clips they thought were buried. Audio files that never aired. Emails, burner texts. Every angle." The judge looked over his glasses. "Is this admissible?" The prosecution replied, "Your Honor, all files were received legally, provided through whistleblower protection, and corroborated by metadata and production timestamps." The judge gave a small nod. "Proceed." The lights dimmed slightly as a screen was rolled in. Tasha K looked at Bambi, then at Spice, who sat behind her, arms folded but eyes sharp. "I didn't leak this to be messy," Tasha K said, voice steady. "I leaked this because they made me part of a lie and I don't lie for free." The first video played. Scrappy, seated in a producer's office, leaned back with his feet up. "If we get her mad enough, she gonna pop. Just press the baby issue. That always works." A voice, likely a producer, responded, "You sure you wanna say that on camera?" Scrappy laughed. "What? It's not like they'll ever air this. Y'all edit everything." The courtroom erupted. Gasps, murmurs, even a soft wow from the back row. Bambi stared at the screen, her hand clenched so tightly the gold on her ring finger cut into her skin. Clip 2. A dark hallway behind. The reunion set, Scrappy whispering into a mic. "Just make sure Tasha leaks the part where she cries. That's what'll flip the fans." Clip 3. A green room shot. A producer laughs with Erica Mena, whose face was blurred for legal reasons. "We'll cut it like she lied about the pregnancy scare," the producer said. Scrappy, again off-screen, added, "She always looks unstable. Just give her a soft chair and some lights." By the time the third clip ended, the courtroom was spinning. The defense tried to object. "This is prejudicial. This is not courtroom procedure." The judge cut them off. "We're not here to protect images. We're here to find the truth." The prosecution turned to Tasha K. "Did anyone instruct you to manipulate content?" She nodded. "Multiple producers. I was told to create arcs. That made Bambi look irrational. I was given talking points. I was paid bonuses when scenes went viral." Did the defendant know? "He sent me texts. Told me what to post. Even approved captions." She slid her phone across the desk. "It's all there." At this point, Scrappy's lawyer asked for a recess. The judge denied it. "Ms. Freeman, did you ever question what you were doing?" Tasha K paused. "At first, I thought it was all just TV. But when Bambi called me crying after a reunion taping, when I realized she didn't know we had micked her dressing room, that's when I realized we weren't just documenting drama. We were engineering destruction. Gasps. Again, Spice, still silent, leaned over to whisper in Bambi's ear. This is just the beginning. He's not ready for what's coming. The court took a short break, but the press had already caught wind. Outside, headlines exploded. Tasha K's drive of doom. Scrappy, caught on tape. Spice to take the stand next. When the court resumed, Tasha K pulled out a final piece. A production schedule marked Confessional's breakdown day. On it were segments labeled Push Baby Angle, Trigger Her with Infidelity, and Have Jock mention Erica. This was pre-written, she said. The breakdown wasn't accidental, it was planned. And Scrappy signed off on it. The judge ordered the schedule entered into evidence. Scrappy looked like he hadn't blinked in 5 minutes. His lawyer whispered urgently. He said nothing. Bambi turned toward him for the first time all day and whispered, "This is your legacy now." The judge adjourned for the day. As everyone exited, Tasha K paused in the hallway, turned to the cameras, and said, "I told y'all, Lime, not the villain. I'm the footage." The courtroom was a different beast on day 2. The energy had shifted. The crowd was even larger, security had tripled. Bloggers were live streaming reactions from the steps. And the streets, buzzing with hashtags like hashtag Scrappy Trial Day 2, hashtag Spice Testifies, and hashtag Bambi Deserved Better. The moment the doors opened, everyone knew something big was about to happen. Inside, Scrappy was a shell of the man who strutted through the first day. His legal team looked pale. Bambi sat in quiet strength, flanked by her attorney and Tamika, the original whistleblower, but all eyes were on the next name called. Your Honor, we now call Grace Hamilton, known publicly as Spice, to the stand. Silence dropped like a bomb. Spice, dressed in a sharp navy suit with bright blue braids wrapped like a crown, walked to the witness box with regal calm. She placed her hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth, and then she turned toward the gallery and looked directly at Scrappy. The tension could have cracked glass. Ms. Hamilton, the prosecutor began, you were a cast member on multiple seasons of Street Ties, Atlanta alongside the defendant and the plaintiff. Were you ever instructed to provoke or emotionally agitate Ms. Bambi Richardson? SPICE's voice was sharp but calm. Yes, more than once. What were you told to do? To bring up her ex, her kids, her weight, her husband cheating. Whatever it took to make her snap. Murmurs in the room. Bambi shifted slightly, swallowing hard but staying composed. Scrappy stared down at the table, not making eye contact. Did you comply? SPICE paused. The first time, yes. I didn't know how bad it was behind the scenes. But once I realized she was being targeted once, I saw the breakdown folders. They had on high started pushing back. Breakdown folders. They had a printed binder, Spice said, pulling out a scan, labeled, Bambi Trigger Points. It listed dates she'd cried on set, key phrases to use, and even color-coded emotions to hit like shame, betrayal, and motherhood insecurity. The courtroom exploded. Gasps, audible, outrage. Even the court stenographer paused for a beat. And did the defendant, Mr. Richardson, know about this binder? Spice nodded slowly. He helped write it. He helped write it. That single sentence shifted the entire energy in the room. Scrappy looked up, mouth open in disbelief. She's lying, he muttered. His lawyer nudged him, whispering, don't speak out loud. Spice continued. I watched him during a meeting with producers. They asked him what makes Bambi tick. He said, bring up her weight after birth. That always gets her. They laughed. He laughed. I didn't. The prosecution displayed the scanned binder pages on the courtroom screen. Everyone could see it now. A neatly typed section titled Confessional Bait, with bullet points, like, reference, baby weight. Say, you were never enough for him. Mention Erica but pretend it was off script. Push her during wardrobe fitting. Ms. Hamilton, the prosecutor said, did you ever witness production re-editing footage to alter reality? Yes, plenty of times. They'd film her for hours, then chop it to make her seem irrational or dramatic. Once, she simply asked, for 5 minutes off camera to call her mother. They edited it to look like she stormed out screaming. She didn't. The defense rose, trying to object, but the judge waved them off. And what about Mr. Richardson's role in this manipulation? The prosecutor asked. Spice leaned in. He pretended he wasn't involved. But I saw him on the group chats. I heard him give producers the go-ahead to air scenes Bambi didn't sign off on. He even approved the music used during her breakdown scenes. Said it made her look more lost. Scrappy stood suddenly, shouting, "You don't know what you're talking about." The courtroom went wild. The judge slammed his gavel. "Order. Mr. Richardson, sit down or I will hold you in contempt." He sat, visibly shaking. His lawyer rubbed his back, whispering frantic strategy. SBICE, unfazed, adjusted her braids and continued, "He wasn't just part of the system. He was the system. He weaponized the camera. He turned his own wife into a plot point." Court broke for recess shortly after, but outside, chaos. News vans reported live. Blogs released screenshots from SPICE's testimony. A Twitter thread comparing the trigger point binder to psychological abuse went viral. Bambi trended in 17 states. #SpiceSpoke trended globally. Inside the courthouse, things escalated again. Bambi's lawyer filed a motion to add coercive manipulation and emotional exploitation to the existing charges. Tasha K., seated in the back, leaned to whisper to a reporter, "And this is still just Act 2. Later that afternoon, Bambi gave her own testimony. Measured. Devastating. She explained the emotional toll. The sleepless nights, the gasp. She read texts from Scrappy where he told her to just go along with it and it'll all make us look good in the end. The prosecution played more unaired footage this time, a hidden mic clip from a reunion taping, where Scrappy is heard saying, "She's emotional today. Let's roll first and comfort later." The courtroom sat in stunned silence. But the real shock came next, just as they were about to adjourn. Tasha K. stood up and requested to submit one more encrypted video titled "Emergency Room Confessional Bambi." The judge allowed it. The lights dimmed, the video played, and the entire courtroom watched Bambi. Makeup smeared, seated in an ER waiting room after a panic attack. A camera operator was hidden behind a curtain. The producer could be heard whispering, "Can we use this? Just blur the wristband. It'll look powerful." Bambi looked up and said, "I just needed a break. I didn't know I'd signed up to be broken." The video ended. Nobody moved. The judge whispered, "We resume tomorrow. And Ms. Freeman, prepare your final witness file, because I need to see every contract they made her sign." The courtroom emptied, but the story was just beginning. The sun hadn't even risen when fans started camping outside the courthouse. This wasn't just a trial now, it was a cultural event. Street vendors sold #broken for ratings shirts. Journalists jostled for camera space. A fan with a "Protect Bambi" sign made the morning news. Inside the courthouse, the tension was unbearable. The judge had requested one final hearing before releasing the jury. Scrappy, now visibly gaunt and twitching, sat with his lawyers in silence. Bambi wore no makeup, no lashes, just steel in her eyes and fire in her chest. SPICE and Tasha K. flanked her like shields. The bailiff called court to session. Cameras weren't allowed inside, but it didn't matter. Tasha K. had already promised a documentary edit of the entire trial. What no one expected was one final twist. Judge, before we proceed to jury deliberation, Ms. Freeman has requested permission to introduce one final piece of evidence. A murmur swept the courtroom. Tasha K. stood slowly, holding a brown envelope. "Your Honor, this file was anonymously dropped into my legal team's Dropbox folder last night at 2:37 a.m. It contains a 14-minute unedited confession from a former executive at Urban Trend Studios, filmed shortly after they were subpoenaed." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Is this footage authenticated?" Prosecution: "Yes, Your Honor. Metadata confirmed. Same production drive as the Season 12 confessionals." Defense: "Objection. Judge, overruled." The video begins. The courtroom goes completely silent. On screen, a man sits in a dim studio with no graphics, no music, just a time stamp. 3 months ago. Executive: "I was told to make Bambi unstable. That was the instruction. The goal was to create a story arc of collapse. We called it Project Spiral." Scrappy was fully on board. The gasps hit like lightning. Executive content: "He gave us input on music, lighting, set design. He approved the scene where Bambi was baited into crying by showing her unseen footage of Erica Mena flirting with producers. It wasn't accidental. It was a layered, coordinated takedown." Executive final statement: "If she sued, we were told to drag it out until she breaks for real." The video ended. The courtroom stayed still for several seconds. Even the judge had to swallow hard. "Judge, this court has seen enough." Defense: "Your Honor, we request judge denied. Jury will deliberate immediately." As the jury filed out, Scrappy broke. He leaned over to his lawyer, shaking, whispering, "I can't do jail. I can't lose my kids." His lawyer calmly responded, "Then settle." Now, what happened next wasn't captured on tape, but it was leaked by reporters within 10 minutes. Scrappy, through a whispered hallway negotiation, accepted a plea deal, 8 months of house arrest, $2 million payout to Bambi mandatory mental health therapy through a women-led nonprofit. Public apology approved by court officials. He avoided jail, but not public ruin. Back inside, the judge made it official, due to overwhelming evidence. The court finds Urban Trend Studios and Mr. Richardson liable for emotional coercion, breach of contract, and defamation. We are recommending the footage be unsealed and a federal media ethics board review be launched. Bambi didn't cry. She didn't flinch. She simply stood. The reporters outside almost didn't notice when Spice handed her a small flash drive labeled Uncut, the reunion they never aired. As Tasha K wrapped her coat around her shoulders, a reporter screamed, "Tasha, what happens next?" She smirked, turned slowly to the camera, and said, "Now the network gets sued." And that's exactly what happened. 1 week later, the Hulu documentary aired, Broken for ratings, the real story of Bambi's collapse. It broke records in 24 hours. Clips included raw behind-the-scenes footage, mixed-up manipulation, and producers laughing about Bambi's latest breakdown. Spice did voiceover, Tasha K did commentary. Bambi, she did the final scene. In it, she read from a statement. "I thought reality TV was a platform. Instead, it was a trap. But now I'm the director. I'm the editor. I own my pain. I control my cut." The internet went into meltdown. Sponsors dropped Urban Trend. 3 producers resigned. Mona Scott, though never directly named in the trial, quietly exited the franchise and issued a cryptic tweet. "Sometimes, when you play God with real lives, you forget real people bleed." It was too late. Bambi filed a $50 million class action lawsuit with 6 other former cast members. She created her own production label. Her first project, The Bambi File, unedited, a limited docu-series with 0 producers, no staged confessionals, and full creative control. She went viral. Scrappy posted his court-ordered apology. "I failed you. I failed myself. I let ego and fear turn me into something I swore I'd never be." The comments were brutal. "You're not sorry. You're exposed." Bambi won without the camera crew. VH1 Who. Meanwhile, Tasha K went live one final time, sitting in front of a bookshelf, holding the binder that started it all. "I may be messy, but I brought the mop," she said. "They thought this was a show. But it was a warning." She logged off. Final. SCINI, a quiet studio. Bambi sat at a desk. Alone. No glam. No production team. She looked directly into the lens. "I gave them everything. My voice, my trust, my trauma, and they used it all for content. But I've got something they never will again, myself." She smiled. Then she closed her laptop. Fade. 2 black dot text on screen. "This story is real. The footage is real. And the truth. It's just getting started."